A developing story out of Sydney where police are desperately searching for the husband of a woman found dead in the city south. Today's Sydney reporter Jack Hahn is following the story for us. Jack, good morning. Police hold grave concerns.
You're right about that, Sophie. Good morning to you. This murder mystery is deepening this morning, with police having a particular concern for a man by the name of Rex Chen. His traditional name is Ji Bao Cheng. His wife, Sally Lee, was found dead in bushland in Botany. Her remains have been formally identified, and there has not been really any sign of Rex Chen over the last couple of days. So the boss of the homicide squad here in New South Wales, Danny Doherty, has put it bluntly that he doesn't know whether or not Rex Chen is alive or dead this morning. So there is really an urgent hunt underway for any sign of him this morning right across Sydney or the state of New South Wales. What is of a particularly interesting note for the homicide squad that they have drawn our attention to is CCTV images that they have obtained along Foreshore Road in Botany. This is very close to where the remains of Sally Lee was discovered. This is a vehicle. They believe this car transported Sally Lee's remains to that site in Botany. That vehicle is not registered to either Sally Lee or to Rex Chen, which could suggest that a third party is involved. All lines of inquiry being explored this morning as the homicide squad work overtime to try and solve what is right now a murder mystery. Sophie.
Jack Hahn with that developing news. Thank you.
It has been revealed rugby league powerhouse Melbourne Storm are scaling back the club's welcome to country ceremonies. Let's go live to Kiara Parker at Amy Park. Kiara, good morning to you. Do we know what sparked this move?
The club actually dropped the tradition late this season, and after receiving no fanfare has now made the official call. The Melbourne Storm telling the Herald Sun the club wants its actions to reflect what it stands for. Welcome to country ceremonies have drawn some negative reactions in recent times, some suggesting they're overdone and even misused. Melbourne Storm is aware the decision could inflame what's become a sensitive issue, with welcome to country ceremonies becoming commonplace at sporting events across Australia. But the Storm says it will continue with the welcome to country for the NRL's Indigenous round.
Kiara Parker in Melbourne, thank you.
Developing news out of regional Victoria, where a 31-year-old man has been arrested following the alleged stabbing of two other men during a dispute. Both the 24 and 38-year-olds suffered serious injuries at the property in Cockatoo just after 11 p.m, with the younger man needing to be airlifted. It's believed all three are known to each other. A car has gone up in flames in Sydney south this morning. Emergency crews were called to this property in Menai just after 1 o'clock, finding the Mercedes sedan well alight. Police are investigating what sparked the fire and whether it was deliberately lit. South Australia Police want to hear from anyone who donated to a little boy's parents who are accused of faking his cancer diagnosis. There is confirmation this morning it was someone at the boy's school who raised the alarm with authorities, as those closest to him raised nearly $60,000. His parents remain behind bars. They're charged with neglect and deception. 3 ADF soldiers have been arrested in Townsville, facing a string of charges over their alleged involvement in a drug trafficking syndicate. Police say cash was seized, alleging the money was intended to buy drugs to be sold for profit. The Defence Force says it is cooperating with police and takes allegations of this nature seriously. More than 100 people have gathered in Melbourne overnight to remember the state's domestic violence victims. Images of the women who've lost their lives at the hands of a man this year were plastered across a park at Clifton Hill.
The victims are begging for change. The ones who are saying they're going to give us change are not giving us change. We're releasing people on bail. We're, trivialising the amount of youth crime in this state. So until meaningful change happens, and it has to be from those who can actually enforce that change, we as the general society cannot. We're begging, they're not listening.
16 Victorian women have died this year from domestic violence, and if you or anyone you know needs help, there are services available. Call 1-800-RESPECT, that is 1-800-737-732. 10 years since the Lindt Cafe siege, people are expected to gather in Sydney's CBD to remember the victims who lost their lives that day, as well as the hostages left traumatised. The end of the 17-hour standoff saw the deaths of hostages Tori Johnson and Katrina Dawson. Plans for a formal memorial service are expected to be announced this morning. Queensland is on track to receive a massive $6 billion boost this summer with a bumper tourism season expected. Let's go live to today. Queensland reporter Jessica Warboy is in Brisbane. Jess, almost half of Aussies travelling these holidays have chosen the Sunshine State.
Absolutely, Lizzie. And as you said, a huge $6 billion boost to our economy. Now, 60% of all Aussies are expected to make a holiday trip this summer, and half of those will pick the Sunshine State as their destination. Now, new data from Tourism and Events Queensland show that the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast are the most desirable, but southern Great Barrier Reef and Brisbane are also up there. This weekend marks the start of the Queensland school holidays, and the other states in Australia are also on break until February, which means 8 weeks of glorious business for tourism operators. Bookings are filling up for Christmas and New Year's, but Lizzie, there is still time to book in your Sunshine State getaway.
Jessica Warboy is there for us. Thank you. Heatwave conditions are forecast to intensify today in most of the country's states and territories. Adelaide set to hit 40 degrees today. The high temperatures have forced the cancellation of a number of events across the city, including the Gouldwa Christmas pageant, with authorities on high alert.
We're going to see those northwesterly winds really strengthen, particularly through central and eastern parts of the state, and that's going to elevate the fire danger, so potentially seeing some extreme fire danger ratings on Monday.
An extreme heat warning for Mount Isa in Queensland remains from yesterday, with severe and low intensity heat waves extending through New South Wales and Victoria. This is a live shot of Sydney right now, where it is forecast to reach 28 degrees in the city. It will be much warmer in the west, set to hit 35 in Penrith today. Melbourne will be hovering around the low 30s, but it will reach 40 degrees tomorrow. And husbands, sons and daughters across the country are being urged to pull their weight this festive season, with a new report suggesting mothers bear the brunt at Christmas time. According to Monash Health, women aged between 40 and 50 experience heightened stress at this time of year, resulting in many turning to coping mechanisms such as alcohol, binge eating and medications. The advice for kids and husbands: help out where you can. Make sure it's not left to mum to wash the dishes on Christmas Arvo.
Can I just say, shout out to my dad. Dad does the dishes every single night. I mean, mum pulls her weight, definitely. She cooks a lot and cleans and does all of that, but yeah.
I know, mums do bear the brunt. I've marvelled at my mum and her efforts my whole life in the kitchen every Christmas. She loves it, but she also likes to keep everyone out of the kitchen, I think, because it just functions better. But there's a few wines had.
Yes.
Morning, Kate.